AOC. What? She's kind of fun in a silly but earnest, wrong but adorable way. She's like your daughter when she comes back from her first year at Brown, full of half-baked, half opinions, in need of some gentle, patient deprogramming. But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas. Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea or issue in her life.
Greg Gutfeld didn't just walk onto the political stage. He blasted in like a firestorm with a flamethrower at full blast. And who's caught right in the flames? None other than AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the self-proclaimed queen of Twitter burns and headline-grabbing sound bites. But here's the jaw-dropper. This time, she's not holding the mic. She's holding the L. What did Greg reveal that left jaws on the floor, headlines erupting, and social media in a frenzy? This isn't politics as usual. It's a wild collision of comedy, chaos, and career-shattering truth bombs wrapped into one explosive spectacle.
There is nothing consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in this. The Republican caucus threatened my life, and you all and the Republican caucus rewarded him with one of the most prestigious committee assignments in this Congress. Don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-
If this clash has you hooked, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It matters more than you think. Because what Greg Gutfeld is pulling off with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez isn't just political commentary. It's a comedy show cleverly dressed up as breaking news. Every punchline, every jab lands with the precision of a late-night headliner owning the stage. And let's be real. If you've ever seen AOC in action, you know she thrives on playing Congress's superhero. Marvel cape optional. Instagram filter always included. Greg's roast doesn't just sting, it dazzles, turning her dramatic flair into a full-blown spectacle that keeps audiences glued to every second.
Gets along with Bernie is because she's like an 80-year-old leftist in a used bookstore. I mean, she may look fresh, but she's as stale as an abandoned futon on the street. It's like I listen to her, I go, I heard that at Berkeley in 1983. So their problem is, and the reason why they don't have any ideas is they operate on half opinions. Like, what if we get rid of cash bail? Oh, let's do it. What happens? You have repeat criminals wreaking havoc. What if we have sanctuary cities? Hey, let's do it. What happens? You have rapists and killers, finding sanctuary, safe haven. What if we
save the planet, end poverty, cure inequality, teach your cat yoga, all before brunch? That's the kind of sky-high energy AOC pours into her speeches, stacking promises like she's running a magical marketplace. But then Greg Gutfeld steps in, takes one glance at her grand proclamations, and cracks a grin. Because to him, this isn't serious policy, it's open mic night gone wild. And here's the kicker. He doesn't just sit back quietly. He storms in with the ultimate mic drop, exposing how her sweeping visions sound less like hard legislation and more like a late-night improv routine spinning out of control.
I love how she explains it. They're not meant for you, right? But then you have to ask, okay, then what is this debt forgiveness? Who is it meant for? And when you look at the data, it's upper, white, middle-class, liberal women. This ain't welfare, right? These are well-to-do people. It's a bribe for Democrats on the backs of plumbers, truckers, and everyone else who actually does a real job, unlike me. AOC is the symbol of the entitled sponge. She complains about student loans, but she owns a Tesla.
The funniest part? How ridiculously predictable it all is. AOC bursts onto the scene, acting like the fearless voice of the people, waving banners for rooftop gardens, free everything, and revolutions on demand. But then Greg Gutfeld steps in, not with charts or policy jargon, but like the sarcastic uncle at Thanksgiving, the one who never lets a lofty plan slide without a brutal joke. His timing is vicious, his wit razor sharp, and in an instant her serious mission transforms into a comedy sketch waiting to be laughed at.
Think about what their ideas incentivize. That would be nice. So where are their ideas going to come from? Trump. The only way they're going to create a message is based on whatever Trump does. So I have some slogans for the Democrat Party.
Oh, wow.
The Democrat Party, when you're tired of success.
Okay.
The Democrat Party, make America suck again. Democrat Party, the first choice for illegals, vandals, and dead people.
Greg doesn't waste time burying her under boring charts or endless statistics. Absolutely not. Instead, he takes AOC's flashy presentations, spins them like pizza dough, and tosses them straight into the fire of comedy. Suddenly, her billion-dollar dreams don't sound like bold reforms. They sound like a teenager maxing out a credit card at Sephora. But here's where it stings even more. It's not just humor, it's raw exposure. Greg rips back the curtain, pointing out her contradictions, railing against capitalism while sipping pricey kombucha, flaunting $200 hoodies, and streaming live like a full-time influencer. He highlights how her biggest wins exist on TikTok and Instagram, not inside Congress. Her real office isn't the Capitol, it's Instagram Live, complete with ring lights and a cheering comment section like a Coachella crowd. When Greg throws this out, it burns, because it's what people secretly think, but rarely say. Maybe AOC is more influencer than lawmaker.
First, she owns a French bulldog. Thanks to Cat Temp, I know everything about French bulldogs. And one thing I know,
I got a French bulldog.
They are so expensive. They're more expensive than any college tuition. That you got to take care of them. They're adorable dogs. But she owns a Tesla and she owns a French bulldog. And she wants you or your dad, the electrician, to forgive her student loan. That's BS. Turn in the Tesla, sell the dog. I'll buy it half price.
And then come the receipts. Oh, Greg's got them, and he unleashes them without mercy. He zeroes in on her prized creation, the Green New Deal, exposing it not as a concrete plan, but as a glitter-covered wish list that reads like a teenager's vision board. Free healthcare, free education, guaranteed jobs, maybe even free puppies. Everything sounds dreamy until someone asks, who's paying for this? AOC points at billionaires like it's an endless buffet, while Greg calmly reminds her that math is still a thing that actually exists. Suddenly, her utopia looks less like paradise and more like your broke cousin's Venmo request. Well-meaning, heartfelt, but totally unrealistic. The slogans might inspire, but the foundation wobbles like IKEA furniture built without instructions. The fallout is hilarious. Conservatives clutch Greg's punchlines like gospel, repeating his takedowns as common-sense scripture, while progressives rush to shield her like she's the final defense against the apocalypse, crying that Greg is just being mean.
Meantime, AOC has taken a break from doing nothing to get into a beef with the Twitter chief. On Tuesday, she tweeted, LMAO at a billionaire earnestly trying to sell people on the idea that free speech is actually an $8 a month subscription plan. That's a reference to Musk's plan to charge people $8 a month for verified blue checkmark status. But he hit back tweeting, your feedback is appreciated. Now pay $8. To be fair.
And caught right in the middle of this circus? Everyday people laughing nonstop. Because, let's be honest, watching Gutfeld spar with AOC is funnier than half the comedies streaming on Netflix. But underneath the jokes sits something sharper, a truth that slices deep. Comedy has always been one of the deadliest weapons in politics, and Greg swings it like a scalpel, cutting straight through her polished slogans and flashy branding. He reveals how her ideas shine on Twitter, but collapse the second you try to turn them into real laws. That's the part that stings. It's not cruelty, it's precision. He blurts out the quiet question everyone's been thinking. Is this really Congress, or is it just a TikTok house? And the timing couldn't be juicier, because in today's world, politics has become entertainment. AOC is the influencer, growing her brand with hashtags and live streams, while Gutfeld is the relentless critic, turning the whole act into a savage roast. And like every brutal roast, the laughter hides an uncomfortable truth. Her power might be built more on performance than on policy.
To be fair, she'd love to spend the $8, but she already bought a Tesla. He also tweeted a photo of some ugly AOC merch she's trying to hawk for $58. Overpriced merch, AOC. Seems pretty capitalistic of you, which according to you makes you evil. And according to anyone paying attention, also makes you full of.
When Greg mocks her economic math, it's more than just a joke. It's proof of how wildly unrealistic some of her grand ideas really are. When he laughs at her working-class warrior image, he's pointing out the glaring gap between her fiery speeches and her polished lifestyle. And when he skewers her Instagram activism, he's exposing how much politics has turned into theater instead of actual solutions. The aftermath is always the same. AOC, never one to sit quiet, fires back on Twitter with blazing clapbacks that only keep the feud alive. Sometimes she doubles down, sometimes she hides behind moral outrage, but either way, it just pours gasoline on Greg's fire. The cycle never ends. She speaks, he mocks. She reacts, he mocks again. It's political ping-pong that audiences can't stop watching. But beneath the laughs, Greg drives home a point that can't be ignored. Politics isn't about catchy slogans, it's about what actually works. And if you can't explain how to pay for your shiny paradise, maybe it's not a paradise at all. Maybe it's just another viral tweet dressed up as policy.
I mean, first of all, $80 per theater. I mean, I made $80 in a theater, and there wasn't even a movie playing.
Wow. What do you mean?
I don't know. You know, it's no surprise. Who would go see a movie that's the opposite of entertaining? There's nothing entertaining about that. Michael Moore's colonoscopy is more entertaining than that because there's probably more twists. But it does show you how great it is to be a progressive in a liberal biased culture. She really doesn't do her job, right? She makes movies, she goes to galas, she sits for glossy butt-kissing interviews in GQ and other women's mags.
That's why Greg's takedowns land with such impact. They're not just funny, they cut through the noise with clarity. His punchlines slice apart the emotional speeches and Instagram theatrics, exposing the cracks in AOC's carefully polished image. And people can't get enough, because deep down, most are tired of being sold fantasies with no receipts. Greg delivers the reality check, only wrapped in laughter that makes it impossible to ignore. By the time the dust settles, AOC's brand might still shine. After all, she thrives on attention, whether it's praise or backlash. But once the illusion slips, it can't be unseen. Maybe that's the real reveal here. It's not about one joke or a single critique, it's about slowly tearing down the facade. Gutfeld rips off the glossy magazine cover version of AOC and shows the raw, unfiltered reality beneath. And when you realize her influence comes less from actual laws and more from performance, the entire act suddenly feels shaky. Equal parts hilarious and unsettling all at once.
It is funny. That's mean. You're
right.
mean.
She's
You're
not
being mean.
But I'm fascinated they thought there was an audience for this outside of like Earth Justice or the Justice Democrats, because who really wanted to go and see this thing? And then tomorrow you'll have an article that we'll have to talk about, which is that kids all over America are having nightmares about climate change. Well, no wonder.
Well, Jessica, what about the fact that the climate activists are very much, they're very much enthused about what they do.
And just when you think the storm has passed, boom, AOC shows up on 60 Minutes, and suddenly it's round 2 of Greg versus AOC. You can already imagine the chaos brewing because politics isn't slowing down, and neither are the punchlines. Let's be honest, this isn't a one-off clash. It's a never-ending sitcom. Every time she posts, speaks, or even breathes too loudly in Congress, Greg is right there, pen ready, turning it into the joke of the night. This isn't traditional politics anymore. It's improv comedy on the taxpayer's dime. She paints herself as Rosie the Riveter 2.0, fists raised to topple billionaires and save the working class. But Greg's exposure makes it hilarious and painful, like realizing your gym membership's been draining your bank account for years, and you haven't stepped inside once. And then there's her climate warrior act. She frames climate change as a Marvel supervillain ready to destroy Earth, unless she gets an Avengers-sized budget to save it. In her world, the Green New Deal is the infinity gauntlet. Snap her fingers, and suddenly planes run on good vibes, carbon emissions vanish, and every home gets a glamorous HGTV-style makeover.
AOC was on 60 Minutes last night. Quite a feat for a newcomer. Must be all her great new ideas.
People are going to have to start paying their fair share in taxes. Once you get to like the tippy tops, on your 10 millionth dollar, sometimes you see tax rates as high as 60 or 70%.
What an expression. Now, the real story isn't AOC's very old ideas. It's the media's gushy view of her. Even with her old ideas, she gets on 60 Minutes. The past is called the future, and you better love it.
Greg Gutfeld, of course, isn't buying the fantasy. He looks at her sweeping vision and says, "Nice dream. But who's footing the bill?" Suddenly, her grand plans sound less like legislation and more like a Kickstarter pitch with stretch goals like end poverty and free unicorns. The genius of Greg's style is that he never debates like a policy wonk. He ridicules like a comedian. Instead of droning on about broken math, he cracks that her numbers look like they were scribbled on a cocktail napkin after a couple of margaritas. Instead of claiming her proposal lacks structure, he jokes it's got as much stability as a toddler's drawing of a house. That's why his takedowns explode online. They stick in your head like a joke you can't stop repeating. While AOC's fans swoon and defend her, Greg keeps chuckling, spinning her serious policy into comedy fuel. It's like trying to win a water balloon fight when the other guy shows up with a flamethrower. You've got passion, but he's got fire. And the funniest part? Watching the media scramble, progressive outlets rush to shield her, calling Greg dismissive or unfair, as if that could stop the laughter from spreading.
His delightful dancing video from last week. The media created a fake story that conservatives attacked her over this delightful trifle. Not really. In fact, the only stories written about the dance were by liberals using it to falsely smear the right. So the press creates a shield around her in which any criticism must be due to sexism or bigotry, when in fact it's in their heads and not ours. But this strategy works by preventing real criticism about her actual beliefs, which are retreads of horrible ideas from previous centuries. Socialism with a smile, fascism among friends, Venezuela meets vegan.
Meanwhile, conservative outlets can't get enough. They blast Greg's punchlines everywhere, practically turning them into bumper stickers and rallying cries. And the rest of us? We're sitting back with popcorn, watching what feels like the strangest buddy comedy ever made. One side playing the activist influencer, the other the sarcastic late-night uncle who never runs out of material. Together, they've created a spectacle that's more entertaining than half of what Netflix puts out. But beneath the laughter lurks a bigger question. What does it mean for politics? On one side, AOC thrives on attention, whether it's cheers, boos, or memes. Every viral moment cements her as a cultural force. Yet once the illusion cracks, the magic fades. And that's exactly why Greg's comedic punches matter. They aren't throwaway gags, they're reality checks wrapped in humor. They remind everyone that fiery slogans don't solve problems. Instagram followers don't pass laws, and emotional speeches don't pay the bills. And maybe, just maybe, they remind AOC that being a social media superstar doesn't automatically make her a heavyweight in Congress.
YouGov poll says AOC has 61% approval rating for Democrats, right? The highest of any Democrat unless they've been elected president. So if your new brand ambassador is going to be AOC, then I think it's more than just the messaging and the branding.
So by now you heard that AOC, among others, were arrested last night. She truly is an American hero. It was brutal, taken out in cuffs. Well, technically, her shirt had cuffs. Maybe French cuffs, as she did surrender without fighting.
And here's the twist. AOC isn't slowing down. Without the drama, the flair, and the endless live streams, she wouldn't be the AOC the internet craves. And that's exactly why Greg will never let up. Because without her theatrics, half of his best material disappears. It's the strangest political loop ever. She fuels him with content. He fuels her with attention. And the rest of us get front row seats to laugh through the chaos. And don't be fooled. This saga is nowhere near finished. Every new proposal, every viral post, every fiery rant is just fresh fuel for Greg to spin into comedy gold. If you thought this round was brutal, buckle up, because if AOC is the influencer of politics, then Greg Gutfeld is the professional heckler who never leaves the stage. And in this endless comedy club called Washington, the mic stays hot, the punchlines stay sharp, and the exposure never stops.